Welcome to Obstacle Running Adventures.
Over the last 7 years, we have consistently released weekly episodes focusing on
obstacle course racing, running, and other adventures.
You'll hear interviews, event recaps, conversations about our sport,
quick news updates about happenings in our community.
And now, here are your hosts,
Standing on the corner,
Michael Stefano and Caitlin Ritter.
Hey guys, it's Michael Stefano.
And Caitlin Ritter. And Michael, I don't even know what day it is. How was your weekend?
It's Tuesday. It's a little bit late. Way to draw attention to it.
Tuesday.
Is that a song?
Gotta get down on Tuesday.
Get out of here.
That's the second time in the last 30 seconds you've told me to get out of here.
Yeah, your other thing was also ridiculous as well. But we're not going to talk about that. My weekend was pretty good. Did a half marathon that I told my family that I wasn't going to do because just 2 weeks previous I was in urgent care, unable to walk or sit without excruciating pain. I'm talking 8 out of 10 pain. And I've magically gotten better.
You're just lying to your family about all sorts of things.
Yeah. What else?
Pompeii.
Oh, yeah, we're going to Pompeii. That's okay. We're trying not to get too sidetracked here. Also, I won an award received an award for 10 years at my job. I was going to name it, but then I remembered people are mad at me for taking the Lord's name in vain on this podcast. I probably shouldn't say where I work, because maybe I'll get, bad reviews or something.
Yeah, no, don't tell people where you work.
Fair. People know what I do. I do what I do. But I've been doing it for 10 years, so that's pretty crazy. Yeah, although technically it's 10 years and 6 months now, that's a long time.
You're going to be like Stephen.
Oh, yeah. I just like making a difference. And, Caitlin, how was your weekend?
It was good. I baked some more bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was fun. My bread making journey has been really exciting.
I am happy for you. Caitlin, let's give a shout out to our sponsors.
Mudgear, use code ADVENTURE for 15% off your next Mudgear purchase. Caterpie, use code OCRReport20 for 20% off your next Caterpie purchase. And use code OCRReport20 for 20% off your next Spartan, Deca, or Tough Mudder event.
Yeah. Shout out to the $5+ Patreon supporters.
Shout out Jason Dupree, Samantha Thompson, Bradley Keel, Charlotte Engelman, Aaron Grindstaff, Laura and Stephen Ritter, Hank and Arlene Stefano, Cheryl Miller, Jessica Johnson, Christopher Hoover, Kevin Gregory Jr., Evan Irick, Brent George, Logan Nagel, Asa Cunnington, Seth Renderknecht, and Steve Bacon over at the New England OCR Expo.
Yeah. And a shout out to the OCR Report for being a great home for us on the internet.
And to Will Hicks.
The Podfather. Check it out over at theocrreport.com. They are the group that I turn to when I need to know if something is a bad idea, like I thought it was. And it was a bad idea. So thanks for
you are the voice of reason.
I try to be. But also, not all the time.
You're my voice of reason.
And a shout out to our sponsored athletes, Javier Escobar.
Kelly Sullivan.
No, it says Caitlin will update. You said you would update last week.
Oh. Javier Escobar, Kelly Sullivan, Ryan Brizzalara, Joshua Reed, Kevin Gregory Jr.
Why did you put Jr.?
He is a junior. Look, Kevin Gregory Jr.
Fair. And we're going to move on to poll results. So further off topic, but we were watching an episode of Monk, and we both saw a character on the screen, and You yelled
Rudy!
And I yelled
Lord of the Rings!
I yelled Sam.
Oh.
Yeah. And so Caitlin put out a post for a poll. What do you know Sean Astin from?
Where's Austin?
I didn't spell check.
Oh, okay.
The Goonies. 38% of people said that one. 17% of people said Rudy. 40% of people said Lord of the Rings. And 5% of people said 50 First Dates. And a whole lot of people wrote in with additional answers. This is the most well-attended poll we've ever had.
I know, it was insane.
A lot of votes. And then also, I put on Sunday, what will my half marathon time be? And 43% of people said sub 2 hours, which is my PR, so that's not likely now. I'm in a much bigger body.
Stronger body.
Not necessarily. 2 to 2 hour and 15 minutes. 38% of people thought that, myself included. 2 hour 15 minutes to 2 hour 30 minutes. 16% of people said that. Which is where it ended up being. I believe it was like 27 or something like that. Not great, but it was a very, very hilly course.
You did great.
And 3% of people said over 2 hour 30 minutes. I'm ashamed with how close I was
Are
to
those
that.
people on your ish list?
No, that's fair. I mean, I was off by like a few minutes, so how angry could I be? If it was like over 3 hours, which the cutoff was 4 hours. You go at your own speed, but I would be very angry if it took me over 2.5 hours. I felt good.
Well, the cutoff is 4 hours.
Yeah. Meme of the week, we're going to skip that and head on over to quick news, starting with, and this is a little bit late, the OCR reports 12Ks of Christmas.
The 12Ks of Christmas, brought to you by the OCR report. And the overday, oh my god. And the overview is every day times 12, you are going to run or walk the Ks. So you started with, on December 1st, you ran 1K, December 2nd, 2Ks, December 3rd, 3Ks, so on and so forth.
Kilometers for those following.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Until the 12th day of Christmas, which is December 12th, where you will run 7.46 miles.
Yeah. That sounds like a fun little challenge. It's a little late if you're just hearing this now, but that's a fun little thing. They'll probably bring it back next year because it's getting a lot of traction.
Yeah.
Following that, it was just announced that there's going to be the Spartan Race Kids European Championships. Or just championship. They said for the first time in Spartan history, the European Kids Championship will debut in London West, UK on May 18th, 2025. Open to racers aged 9 to 11 and 11 to 14. Why didn't they just say 9 to 14? Oh, just two separate age groups?
Maybe it's 2 age groups.
11-year-old competing against 14-year-old.
That does seem crazy.
Yeah. Interesting. This landmark event requires no prior qualification, which is good, knowing their track record. Champions will be crowned in each age group, paving the way for the future of Spartan athletes. So I'm excited about that. That is the future of our sport, so it's good that they're paying more attention to that. I'd wanted to cover the kid championship in China this year, but I couldn't make it work. Time zones are a bitch.
I think I sent you this next news story.
Yeah, you did.
A German man gets the world record for running a marathon while baking a cake.
And it's as ridiculous as it looks, and I love it. He's got like this little setup with, that's a lot of spatulas. Do you really need that many spatulas for a cake?
You could make a cake with one spatula and one whisk.
Well,
but he's essentially running with like an easy bake oven.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And then at the end, at the finish line, he cuts the cake.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't see that.
I loved.
Very cool. Next up, Jonas Drescher from Denmark did a post that looked like it was being suppressed. So we're going to talk about it more. But he posted, "Fool me twice, I guess. Today at World Obstacle event, our team got a penalty because of me, because a judge made a mistake and I chose to ignore him. The ruling sounded, and there's a little bit of language barrier, always listen to the judge. They may not make the right call, but they make the call we must respect. Last year at FISO World Championships, our team got a penalty because we listened to the judge and the written rules. The penalty was issued with a statement, the judge may not also always be right. You as athletes must always know better."
Oh, jeez.
So just FISO shit show. World Obstacle, get your shit together. It's embarrassing. Next up, I want to give a shout out to Mark Richens, I believe, who did this. It says, "Now this is a epic Spartan Race Elf on a Shelf setup. And it's a cool little course that they made. I think I found this from the OCR directory. They posted about it, and it's got like the Elf on a Shelf doing the Tyrolean Traverse, and it's a pretty cute little setup."
Does the elf do one obstacle a day? You can't.
No,
you can't touch the elf.
Right, it's just like a zoomed out course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe he moves it. That's pretty cool. Also, OCR Buddy is doing Best of OCR Awards.
Oh.
Please don't forget about us. I'm friends with just about every podcast host in the entire sport. But if we don't get nominated, Caitlin will have to hear me bitch and moan.
And you know where I'm going to have to hear you bitch and moan?
In Italy.
Guys, please don't ruin my honeymoon.
Also, as if I don't do enough things for the sport, registration is open for the New England OCR Expo April 5th, right? In West Boylston, Massachusetts. So we hope to see you there. There's going to be the Deca Strong again, this time with awards. There's going to be the 100-meter course, which we have finisher medals for. It's going to be a great time. Same venue as last time, Ultimate Obstacles. Look forward to seeing you there. And I'm about to reach out to like 60 more potential vendors tomorrow. Busy.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Using the vendor list I made?
Yeah, that you helped with last year. Absolutely.
I made it.
And then wrapping up, we have the Spartan Central Florida Beast and Super Podiums. Let's start with the Beast.
For the Saturday Beast, for the women, in third place, Emily Wheeler. In second place, Rachel Munoz. And in first place, Cassandra Gill. For the men, in third place, Christopher Harris. In second place, Dominic Herring. And in first place, Oriol Toro. And for the Sunday Super, in third place, Rachel Munoz. In second place, Hannah Riley. And in first place, Cassandra Gill. And for the men, in third place, Apollo Chernik. In second place, Jonathan Dinkins. And in first place, Noel Medina.
Nice. What do you think about the name Apollo?
I don't like the name, personally.
Okay, fair.
Why? Do you want to name our firstborn child Apollo?
No, we already have our names picked out.
We're not pregnant.
Once in a while we throw it. And what do you think about that name? Secret link, there's 5 of them down below, so go and check those out. But let's finally get to what this episode is all about.
What's it all about, Mikey?
So, I guess that we've been talking about having on the show for the past 15 episodes or so fell through for the last time. So either Caitlin, and I underlined Caitlin, I was going to say Caitlin or Will Hicks, I double checked it was you.
Yay!
Who sent me a news story about a guy who ran across the state of Massachusetts raising over $10,000 for a great cause. So I was going to do what I usually do and use it as a quick news story, but I'm wicked glad I reached out to him to make it a full episode. So we talk about his background in running, his career of designing beautiful looking shoes for some high profile people, the aforementioned Ultra Challenge, and much more. So let's get to the interview with Dave. So we'll start off with your name and where you're from.
I'm David Filar. I'm from Worcester, Massachusetts, but I tell people I'm from Poland. That's where I was born. It's where I'm originally from. My family and I immigrated to the U.S. when I was young, and I grew up in Connecticut, went to college in Boston, and then I've stayed and lived in Massachusetts for over 15 years now for the majority of my life. So I tell people I'm from Worcester, Massachusetts, but actually I'm from Poland.
I love it. What is your, I guess the best place to start with this, what is your background in running?
I mean, the first memory that I have of running is I did indoor track in high school. And I remember being the most average at it. I was not good, but I remember back then it was we all had MySpace, and this one kid in the crowd, he was on the track team. He uploaded this clip of me doing the 800 sprint. And on the last lap, so it was 4 laps of 200. On the last lap, I smoked everybody. I don't know what got into me. It was the devil was burning inside of me. But I smoked everybody, and he caught it on video, and it didn't go viral, but it was a moment of holy shit. And I remember looking past people. I'm how do I have so much energy here? And so I always refer back to that as my first running moment, because for whatever reason that memory is stuck in my brain. But I haven't been a runner since then. I played tennis in college, so I'm pretty decent, you can say, at tennis. But I really have, I ran my first marathon in 2019, and then I stopped running for a long time, for a few years. And then I picked it back up a couple years ago. And then now it's just, I run every single day, and it's an addiction for sure.
That's funny. What do you think, falling in and out of love with it, what do you think kind of sparked your latest enjoyment of it? What keeps you going running now? What do you love so much about it?
So it's the daily promise and discipline that I've instilled in myself. So at the start of 2024, I was just one of my 10 major goals for the year. I'm a big beginning of the year goal guy, except I'm not one of the statistics that fall off in January. I'm so devoted to them. And so I told myself I was going to run a 5K every single day this year. And today, while recording, is day 345. I post a TikTok every single day if people want to go check it out. They don't get a ton of views, they don't get a ton of likes, but I have these 4 to 5 people who just fucking love them. It's these primarily dudes who want to better themselves or want to do something similar, and they're addicted to people who are like them. And that daily promise to myself, I've found, is the most influential thing that I've ever done. It's the biggest source of confidence in everything that I do. Right. If you can do that, if you can wake up and eliminate every excuse in the book, I don't give a fuck what the weather is outside. I don't give a fuck. I've ran that 5K at 2 a.m. because I had a 5 a.m. flight, and because I was landing in Los Angeles, and I had to go straight to an event, and then there was no time later, and I knew I wasn't going to do it at 10 p.m. in Los Angeles time, which is actually 1 a.m. East Coast time. And so it's like I've eliminated the word excuses. And when you do something like that, it's extremely powerful.
Yeah, I don't mean to laugh. I didn't know this about you, but I'm doing something similar. It's not a 5K, but I'm doing 2 miles every single day this year. So I'm shooting for 366 days because it's a leap year. Uh,
Yeah.
but you're absolutely right. It's that discipline that, people have this sometimes backwards idea of like what motivation is. Like you just sit around the couch and then you get hit by motivation and then you do the thing. It's like, no, you gotta like get the energy to go into it, and then it's circular. You got to feed into it in order to get from it, right?
So I think of it this way. Movement creates energy, energy creates emotion, and emotion creates life.
I like
And
that.
so if you break it down like in those three stages, like, and it's like a flywheel for me
Mm.
personally, and it really does help. Like movement is the source of a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also tell me, what is your role in the footwear industry? Because scrolling through your Instagram is a whole lot of shoes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm featured on a running and endurance and obstacle based podcast now with your listeners, and yeah, my full time job is I'm a footwear and apparel creative. I'll call myself an artist in general,
Yeah.
but I've been a footwear designer for my 10 plus year career. I've been able to work with a number of different brands, athletes, celebrities, NASA, the Navy. I mean, you name it, and it's been amazing and a wild ride. And uh, I find myself in a unique position because not all there is a footwear design community that like everybody knows everybody, but you don't have footwear designers who are doing ultra races. And
Right.
so
Right.
it's a very like unique thing that I've been able to kind of put my foot into, and the reaction has been tremendous. But yeah, I mean, my background's in design. I studied industrial design, but I love footwear. A lot of people do, especially if you're doing sport like this, performance wear. It's so technical. It's everybody's foot's so different. Some people love certain brands just because it's the only brand they can wear.
Mhm.
And like for whatever reason, their foot shape doesn't work with the other brands. And so there's so much technicality that goes into it. And at a high level, it can make or break your performance. And so I love that aspect of like being able to like be part of that world and understand that world and then be able to like work with, whether it's different partners or products that help influence me as an athlete.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because in running or most sports, like everything really matters. Like shirts, this, that, but nothing matters more than your contact with the road. Your shoes are absolutely everything. Now, I'm not like the biggest shoe guy. I'm not an expert. I usually refer to someone else in the community, Bracken Crocker, who's got like a shoe wall in the background. He's all about shoes. But I think it's an absolute vital part of the sport. What do you think specifically drew you to shoes, though?
So when I was in college, I was studying design in general, which is just industrial design is the design of all things, right? So the chair that you're sitting in, the Mac, behind you, somebody's got to design your metal after you finish a race, right? So usually that comes from an industrial designer, depending on, what the product type is, your toothbrush that you brush your teeth with. Um, I took a specific class on footwear design and I just like fell in love with it. I went to an event. I was in Boston and I met like the creative director. His name was Michael Petrie, and he was the creative director of this woman's like leather boot brand out of New York City. And like I showed him a couple of like my early sketches, like on one of the earliest iPhones back then. And he's like, yeah, keep going, keep doing it. And it was just like enough like confidence. Like
Mhm.
my drawings back then were trash, but like it was just enough like influence and conversation and like support from a random person to like being like, hey, maybe this is something. And now 10 years later, it's like, yeah, I don't know if I'll ever leave the footwear industry.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So I was scrolling through your Instagram, as I said before, and I stuck on one person. I saw Big Poppy, so David Ortiz. Pretty cool that
Yeah.
I know you said NASA and like there's bigger things here and there, but that's one that stuck out to me.
Yeah, if you're from New England,
Yeah.
you'll appreciate the David Ortiz Children's Foundation. We got to make some sneakers for them that were auctioned off. We've worked with, if you're a Bruins fan, Sean Thornton's foundation, who's a very long time Boston Bruin. Now he's an owner of the Florida Panthers, or a part owner, I should say. And so, yeah, we've been very lucky over the course of the career.
What was your first time that you were, you know, potentially like starstruck? Like when did it hit you that like, oh, I've kind of made it big, kind of?
Man, I don't know. I honestly like. I don't think any one person is any more valuable than anybody else. And so that moment has not occurred a lot. I would say the first time was like 2 years into my career. We were working on this technology that was patented, and we got to go out to the Salt Lake City Olympic Oval where they did like ice skating trials and like stuff like that. And we put on this massive like demonstration for everybody inside this like Olympic stadium in like Salt Lake City. And I was like, holy shit, like there's news reports, there's this, there's that. And I was like, damn, that's cool. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. The list goes on. I've been really, really lucky over the years. I've worked with Yvon Chouinard, who's the founder of Patagonia, on a fishing boot, which was crazy in like 2016, which was nuts. I've been, in Italy and China with, affluent people in fashion, and I've been able to work with race car drivers and football players and things like that. It's all those types of things are very normal, because once you get to talk to somebody like this, like you and I are doing right now, they're very normal. Americans, I think, no, maybe the globe kind of puts a lot of athletes on pedestals a lot of times. Like I was thinking of Europe and soccer players, right? It's like, oh my God, it's like, and we do the same. But when you get to talking to them, man, they're no different than us. They really aren't.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, I haven't gone to like David Ortiz level, but I have had like Des Linden on the show and a few like Olympic athletes. You're right, they're regular people, and to me that almost makes it more interesting to me too. Is like you are a regular person, and yet you've put this much time and effort into dedicating your craft to be that good at it, which is pretty cool. But you're right, they are just regular people. I also saw that you're an artist on canvas as well.
Yeah, I mean the art, man, that's so it's tough for me. Like because I have so many art friends who like either do it full time or like borderline do it full time. They like keep a full time job just because it's like they're on the edge of like being a full time artist.
Right.
And like I hear it all the time. They're like, Dave, you're so talented at art. And I'm just like, they're like, we'd kill to have your skills and we're trying to do this full time. And it's like, I just do it for shits and giggles. And like, I kind of just learned it over the years and just like as an outlet. I mean, I haven't painted in like 4 or 5 months. The training for the race obviously took a lot out of me.
Right.
I hope to get back to it a little bit in the new year. But yeah, I mean, I originally started painting out of necessity when I owned my house back then. I needed a second job because I was going paycheck to paycheck to pay the bills. And I taught one of those art classes at one of those like wine bars, like where you go with like your Aunt Sally and get fucking hammered on red wine. And then the painting, everyone smiles and holds up the canvas and it looks like dog shit. Yeah, I taught those classes for.
I have a friend that does that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but it was cool because it taught me the fundamentals, right?
Right.
It also, more importantly, taught me how to get on a stage and how to verbalize and articulate what needs to be done in terms of breaking down some like a big scoped project.
Yeah.
And you can take that same practice and apply it to an ultra race, in my opinion, right? Like this is how I thought about breaking down a 150-mile race. Is like 150 miles is daunting. Okay, what can I possibly do in one day? Okay, well, if I do 5 miles an hour at 12 minutes a mile, right? Okay, I think I could do 20 in the morning and 20 in the afternoon. I think I could do 40 miles a day. Getting on stage, teaching people how to paint, there's a background, right? Okay, once you get the background done, okay, then we'll start doing the main object shape, then we'll do the highlights, we'll do the shadows, and you start like just fundamentally breaking it down into these minimalist, digestible ways. And man, things get so much simpler that way. And when you can like convert your brain to think that way, I mean, I found so much success in that.
You seem like someone that's always hungry to better themselves. I saw that you were very public on how you wanted to be a speaker in front of people, and you do it enough times, and eventually you get good at it. I saw that you took up being a stand-up comic for a little bit too. What drives you to keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone? Because that's what it is, right?
To me, it's the discovery of like don't know what we're great at until you try it and then try it enough times, right? And
Yeah.
it's like the first time's always gonna suck. Like you wrote stand-up comedy, like you did some digging because that's like that's a few
Yeah.
years back.
Yeah.
And like I haven't even thought about that. I only tried it once because it was fucking hard and
But you
terrible.
tried it. That sounds terrifying to me. Yeah.
And let me tell you, it really was. I got a bunch of crickets. I was not funny. And so, but to me, it was like, again, it was the rhythm and the discipline of like learning that craft. Like, I was recently, somebody brought this up recently. I think it might have even been during the run of like, we were just chatting and shooting the shit. And it's like, yeah, I built 12 minutes of material for that stand-up session. And I practiced every day in my car ride on the way home from work in voice notes.
Mhm.
So my voice notes are flooded with terrible jokes. And I like compacted it to 12 minutes and I show up at the door for open mic and the guy's like, okay, you're number 23, and you have 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh fuck, but I have 12 minutes. And he's like, you're not going to survive 4 minutes. And so it's like, it's to me, it's the practice of like, okay, how much can I learn and digest about something to potentially be good at it? And then let's try it and see how it goes. And if I'm not good at it, or I just don't like the action,
Mhm.
then I don't do it again. But if I'm semi-curious about it, it semi goes well. Like I found out very quickly, I'm really good at ultra running.
Yeah.
And I could have ran another 40 miles for a couple more days after I finished the run. Like and like this is the first time I've ever ran over a marathon's length. And like, okay, so that curiosity now is like we started the show this way. It's like,
Yeah.
what could possibly be next? Is like, I don't know. Is it running across the US? Is it running across every state? Which I don't think anybody has done. People have run a marathon in every state. I don't think anybody's ever run across every state the
I know
length of that I know of.
Hmm.
So yeah, to me, it's the curiosity, just learning about yourself primarily of like, is it possible?
Mhm.
Because like, I don't know, man, I'm on a kick of like, if I died tomorrow, am I going to be happy or not? Today, the answer is fuck yeah. Like I'm stoked. I've tried a lot of shit. I've lived a lifetime a few times.
Yeah.
But like if I get complacent or so many people get complacent and they fall into the wheels of life and the cogs, right? And they just
Mhm.
keep going and going. And next thing you know, 8 years passes by. And I'm just like, nah, not me. I'm gonna fucking figure it out. And I'm gonna try a bunch of shit.
Yeah. We talked a little bit before we started recording about, my background with the show, and very similarly, I have severe social anxiety. I don't like being in front of people. I mean, couldn't be further from what I'd be good at naturally. But you do it enough, it opens up more doors. And, I might not be the best at it, but I am, I push, I push, I push. And again, like 400 plus episodes every week, I'm there doing the thing. So like there's something to that where you just put enough effort into it and you find out you're good at it. Or if you're not, you just keep pushing. A lot of people say like fake it till you make it. It's more like fake it and then make it.
Mm.
I find that that's really important too. But yeah, love that. So let's get to the big thing. What made you want to take on this challenge of running across, Massachusetts?
I mean, it's just that is like, like we talked about a little bit earlier, originally the idea was just to run a 5K every single day, right? And for 366 days, as you mapped out, it's a leap year.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months into the year, I'm like, this is too easy. And like randomly on one of my runs, which is usually where I get the greatest ideas that I have.
100%.
I'm sure it's very similar to a lot of your listenership.
Yep. Yep.
I was just like, I forget what it was. It was just like it was like a what if question that I asked myself.
Hmm.
Like, what if I did this? Like, is it possible? Like, can David Filar do this? I don't know. And then I'm very spontaneous. And so when I have an idea, a big idea like that, I'll text like 2 or 3 people, like my very close circle of friends.
Hmm.
And their reaction's always like, that's nuts, but I know you'll do it. And when I get that reaction, then my next phase is like, I don't even like, my girlfriend's joked about this, but like, I don't even ask her. I just put it out on social media. Like I'll put up an Instagram story of like, hey, I'm gonna fucking do this. And like, it's not that I need validation, but it's like, it's that commitment piece. It's like, I've put it out there now. Now it's out of the brain and it's in the public. And so like now it's real.
Yeah.
And
You're held accountable.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
what can I do to execute that? And so then it was I did 5 months of training, arguably too long. I would not do that long again. That's one major takeaway for me is like my body was just like so exhausted by the time I got to doing it. Like I could have done it a month and a half earlier, honestly. Um, but it was the why was like I don't know. Can somebody at 33 do this? I don't know. And
Yeah.
the answer is obviously yes. There are plenty of ultra runners who are much older than I or you are. And it was that. But then secondarily, I did this last year as well as raise money for a children's hospital.
Connecticut.
Yeah, Connecticut Children's last year, where I very similarly, I was running on a treadmill and I was like, what if I could, is it possible to run 12 miles each day for the first 12 days of December? For 144 miles total over 12 days to raise funds for Connecticut Children's. And lo and behold, that was very difficult, or back then it was.
Right.
And we raised $3,000 and it was an amazing experience. And I was like, well, what can we do again this year to amplify it? And last year I was like, oh, maybe I'll do like a marathon a day. Like, is that going to be too crazy? Then I go and do like 38 miles a day.
Right. So I saw that post too, and when you raised all that money for toys, you posted at the end, what should we do next Christmas? And I thought that really aged well because here we are a year from then, and not that $3,000 is small in comparison to what you did this year, but still that's really awesome way to give back to the community.
Yeah, and I had zero, like that didn't get press, obviously, right? Like the biggest difference this year is like the story that like came out of it, right? Like this, your average Joe out of Worcester, Massachusetts is running across the entire fucking state. It's like what kind of nut job is this? Let's get him on camera. And so that was a big difference.
Yeah. So explain to me the planning process. You say you're going to run across the state, and then you realize, how am I going to map this out? Like, how did you map it out? When did you realize how much distance it was going to be? What kind of went into the planning behind it?
So first thing I did was I asked ChatGPT if anybody's ever done it, right? Like anybody today, like that's what you do. And only like two names came up, and it's varying. ChatGPT is weird. It depends on the way you phrase it. Honestly, like I've trialed and errored a bunch of things. Sometimes it says like it gives you like a vertical route, like a fastest known time from Vermont down to Rhode Island through Massachusetts. There's a trail or something like that people have religiously over time tested and proven a fastest known time. This was like somebody did it in 2004 and then somebody did it in 2014, which I thought was interesting because I did it in 2024.
Oh yeah, that is weird.
There's only one guy who wrote it on his website. I forget the guy's name, to be honest. I'd give him a shout out if I remembered. He said it took him 165 miles and he did it over 6 days. And he did it, I think it was the 2014. And I was like, oh shit, clearly somebody's done it. It's not well documented. Let me really document it. Yeah. And maybe this will turn into something, which would be cool. But the planning was like very simple. It was like, it was ChatGPT, it was Google Maps of like, what's the route that basically can run across the state. And, for anybody in New England, or Massachusetts more specifically, Route 20 basically runs in parallel with the Mass Pike, which is I-90 or the main highway that runs east to west or west to east, sorry. And so you have a sub route that basically runs parallel the entire time. There are certain sections of Route 20 which there's zero space to run. Those were sketchy, or I had to deroute and basically add mileage. There was a section where I added 3 miles to the route because there was no breakdown, no shoulder, no nothing. But we drove the route, my girlfriend and I, about 6 weeks prior to the run. So we mapped it out of like, where are the gas stations? Where can we get lunch? Where's a safe space to break? Like, is this road even safe? In the Berkshires of Massachusetts, there's a fuck ton of elevation. And so, okay, day one's going to have a slightly less amount of mileage because we're going to climb 1,700 feet. And so, yeah, it wasn't like you learn these things after you drive it, but it was like, I don't know, the planning was more, to me, it was like not the planning, like it was already done. Time just didn't catch up yet. And
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, let's just find a safe way to do this.
I think that's so awesome. And I have had someone on the show that ran from the tip of New Jersey down to southern New Jersey back in like 2020, and I've been fascinated about it ever since. Like the thought of running across the state, not just little Rhode Island or something, but like an actual decent sized state. I thought I've always wanted to try something like that, and I was actually thinking and looking into like the whole north to south through Massachusetts because it's like I don't want to say like a baby's ultra, but like
No, I think it's like 75 miles or something like that.
yeah, that would definitely be fun. But my biggest worry is exactly what you pointed out too, like cars, and it's not just the mileage because the mileage does suck, but you can train for that. But what you can train for is other people driving in the chaos of actually running that route. So, did you have any situations that stood out to you as like being particularly dangerous, or
Yeah, I mean, listen,
that?
like everybody should be super safe. Like I mentioned, there were a couple sections that just had no shoulder to run on. Like Route 20 primarily, let's call it, had like 4 to 5 feet of like space, like between grass and the road. And so like that's enough space to run. And
Right.
like I was only running in daylight. I didn't run at night. So
Okay.
I got up wicked early. We started at 7 a.m. and then we usually finished around 4:30 when it got dark. And so, there was one section in Sturbridge, which this is where we had to reroute in Sturbridge, Mass, where, you're climbing a hill. We completely spaced on the mapping when we drove it. We completely forgot that there was no shoulder up this hill.
Oh,
And so I basically had to sprint up it. It was about a half a mile. I clocked like a 8:45 mile and I was running 11-minute splits. And
yeah.
like, so that's really fast. And I'm at mile 120 at that point or whatever it is. And so your legs are fried, and then you have to sprint a half a mile because there's 2-lane oncoming traffic and there's zero space to run. And you're just like, I got my hands out. I'm like just like asking people to shift over until I get to the safe zone. And then we went up north before we went back east. That was real sketch. But I mean, that was a lapse in us routing, right? And so yeah, I would, if anybody's ever thinking of doing this, like just try to do as much planning. I mean, I always told people, like, people are like, oh, why would you do it in December? Like, aren't you worried about the cold? I'm like, the cold's going to happen regardless. Like, I got to control what I can control. And that
Yeah.
includes your nutrition, your diet, your training. You mentioned the miles. Like, I can do all of those things.
Yeah.
I can plan the route, right? I can't control the weather. And
Yeah.
so I can't control people's driving, right? Like, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of how we approached it. I mean, thankfully everything went okay.
Yeah, glad to hear it. And it's funny because, as you said, like just if it's like a half-mile stretch, it's easy to miss that when you're driving it because when you drive, you have no, unless you're a runner, you really have no perception of running miles or anything like that. So I could see that being thrown off. And then you mentioned nutrition. Obviously, that's a huge aspect of all runs, but mainly ultras. What was your fueling strategy for this?
Well, so like in 2000, I mentioned in 2019, I ran my first marathon and I didn't know anything about nutrition. I didn't do anything properly. I ate a Cliff Bar before we start. I ran the marathon in Estonia, which is in like Northeast
Oh,
Europe, in
yep.
this small city called Tallinn, which was pretty sick. Very wild marathon. And then didn't do gels, didn't do anything but water during the entire thing. My entire right arm went numb when I finished, and like I like bonked, like for sure. Like I did nothing properly in my training. I was eating Taco Bell every day. Like I was the wrong type of athlete. This time around, I watched just about every YouTube that exists on ultra racing, like Moab 240 all the way down to 100-mile races to 50-mile races, and just studied what do people eat when they're sitting down? What do people eat when they're running? What type of gels do people consume? I studied it all. And so that part, I was like, I'm not going to mess that up again because that's in my control. And throughout the 4 days, I had zero issues with energy. I had zero issues with like digestion. I had zero, like, it was like everything went flawlessly because I've done it a zillion times at that point.
Right.
And so I used goo gels, the most basic. They're one of the cheaper ones. I loved BPN gels, Bare Performance Nutrition, but they're super fucking expensive.
Okay, I
They
haven't
taste
heard of
like,
them.
yeah, they're out of Texas, I think. they taste like goddamn smoothies, dude, but they're $3 a gel. And so it's like I was like, I can't do this. Like I'm burning through gels every night when I'm running and training for 2 to 3 hours. So
Yeah.
I went with goo, and then I'd eat Uncrustables, which obviously I'm sure you've heard of a lot of people using and
100%,
eating.
yeah.
These things called Bobos. I bought them at Costco. They're
Yeah.
like little oat things, like oat bar things. Super good for your gut and really easy to eat when you're running. And then I use this electrolyte mix that I got on Amazon. It's called like Hydrate Light or some bullshit. And then I use Scratch High Carb. So Scratch
Gotcha.
High Carb, obviously you can get up to like 400 grams of carbs in like one bottle, which is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it tastes great. And goes down super easy. So that was pretty much it. But like I was always running one either electrolytes or Scratch, and then one water on me throughout every single time. And then luckily my girlfriend was my crew, and I'd see her every 5 to 6 miles and to rehydrate.
That's great. It's tricky too, because things can always go wrong. Even when you practice a million times, a million and first time, something could go wrong. Was there ever something on your mind? Like when I go through an ultra, I always have like a short list of like, if this happens, or if this happens, or if this happens, I quit. Anything, if it's not on the list, I'm not quitting. Was there anything on that list for you?
For quitting?
Yeah, like was it
No.
ever? No.
No, I don't even know what that word means, dude.
I had a feeling.
I joked that like so I was very fortunate. Two of my friends drove from Cleveland, Ohio to film and created a documentary on the entire run. So I'm so excited for that to come out over the next month and a half, let's say. I'll give them some grace.
Yeah.
And so they were with me and my girlfriend, as I mentioned. And you know, I told them from the start, like, you never ask me, is this enough? Like, do you want to stop? Like, those words just don't exist.
Yes.
There was one way forward, and it was only going to end in Boston. And so if I had to crawl there, I was going to crawl there. Fortunately, did not have to. But yeah, I get why people put those parameters up. In my brain, like, unless like my knee exploded or something, like I was
Right.
going to David Goggins that bitch. Like,
Love it. And then, so again, wrapping up, like how many miles did it end up being in total?
so I clocked on Strava if you want to go check it out, or through my Garmin. Tallied up to 153.19. So just under, we mapped it out as 154. It would have been less if I didn't have to detour and add those 3 miles. So it actually would have been around 150.
Mhm.
Again, I don't know how that other person in past history got to 165 either. That route isn't publicly available. And so
Right.
I think it's somewhere between 150 and 154 to be exact, if somebody else was to try this.
Yeah.
But yeah, 153.19 took 27 hours and 45 minutes of running. And yeah, I mean, it was so, I mean, one of the I keep using the word fun when I talk about it. Like, I had the most fun. I didn't want any of the days to end. I was just so good. Like, when you train for something for so long, like, you can't like, it's so difficult to not excel at it.
Mhm.
And like, I think that to me is like the biggest takeaway for anybody is like, just take these little steps every single day. Like, there was a point where I couldn't run more than 3 miles a day, right?
Yeah.
And then it turns into 5, and then it turns into 7, and then it turns into 10. And then you're like, all of a sudden running 15 miles in a training session.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy fuck. And then I got to do 15 miles again tomorrow, and you still feel good. It's like, damn, I don't know. Maybe I can do this.
Right. Going back to the mental fortitude that you had going into this, did you have any like mantras or anything that you like used or repeated to yourself during the run?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, there was I think it was day 2. I think I shared this in an Instagram post, but my camera crew asked me the midday on day 2. They're like, how you feeling? What's like a phrase that's going through your mind? And I'm like, I just keep repeating, I don't need you to believe in me. I need you to believe that I believe in me.
Mm,
And like, fundamentally, I don't give a fuck if you think that I could run 150 miles or not. I don't care if you think that I could run a 5K every day or not. I don't care if you think that I could run across the United States or not. all I need you to know is that I think that I can. And
Yeah.
there, in turn, I will. And so that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah, I like that. And then so fundraising $10,000, 712, well, $10,712.33, and still continuing the they said the fundraiser's open until January.
Yeah, it'll run. I think we're going to leave it open through January just in case somebody discovers the story or, sees it. Obviously, we raised funds for UMass Medical here in Worcester, their child life department. So they intake kids from, toddlers all the way to teenagers for multiple stints, whether it's, days or even weeks. And so we got to do a little bit of shopping together before the run, as we were raising funds, we were reached like $2,000 or $3,000 pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so we got to go buy the toys. And that really is a lot of fun because you learn from the nurses who were with me. They're like, oh, teenagers love this type of toy because it keeps them occupied for hours. And when you're stuck in a hot, you can't do anything, right?
Right.
And so and then it's like, okay, well, the younger, youth, oh, they love Play-Doh-esque stuff and the maker stuff. And oh, we can't buy that because we can't reuse it. And so you learn about what the different toys that children in a hospital need. And so that part was really fascinating for me too, of hey, if we're going to raise funds, I want everyone to know that your dollar is going directly to a child's toy and who spends it in a hospital. This is no joke. This isn't you donating and it getting lost and you never hear or see about it. And then on top of that, UMass was so great. If you still donate, they send you an individual letter of thank you. So
oh, wow.
Every donor got an individual. It was kind of wild. I was getting texts and DMs of snapshots of holy shit, they're sending me signed my name, blah blah blah, and I was like, what an above and beyond way to just say thank you.
Yeah.
And that was so cool.
How obviously you prepared for the running and all that, but how did it feel to have the fundraising and everything come together? Because again, even if it was just in air quotes $3,000 like it was in Connecticut, how did it feel to have everyone really rally and reach the $10,000?
I mean, it was obviously tremendous. Last year I did it through Venmo, so I just had people Venmo me $3,000, which was the wrong way to. I actually don't know. I know this is public. I don't know if I infringed on any tax things or anything like that. I don't know.
Right.
UMass Children's was so great. They were like, hey, we have this foundation page where you can set it up super easy. It's a direct link to you. It goes straight to us. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I need because I can't raise 10 grand and take that all in myself.
Right.
That's definitely a problem. And so they were tremendous. I mean, the working with them, their energy that they gave me, leading up to the race, even throughout it, on day 3, we ended the day by running past the hospital. And so they bought a bunch of horns and bells and, balloons and a bunch of stuff. And it was super nice. They brought out a bunch of the nurses and, it was super great photo op, obviously, but and that's only day 3. I still have to run to Boston the next day, but every partner that I worked with was tremendous. I mean, we didn't even talk about this. Let's call it a nobody, but I'm very lucky to work in footwear. So I knew a few people internally at Puma who helped me, connect with the right person in running and training. And so Puma sent me a bunch of sneakers, which ended up saving my fucking feet. The Puma Mag Max, if anyone's thinking of running a road ultra, my God, is that shoe so goddamn comfortable? I know everyone's thinking Hoka's and blah, 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 but the Puma Mag Max, they didn't pay me. They sent sneakers, right? So it's not a paid sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
But my feet thank them. And hands down, so elite. What a perfect shoe to do it in. I did mornings in a size 11 and afternoons in 11 and a half. Your feet swell.
Yep. So
swap out socks and size up. So thank you. Super thankful for Puma. I worked with Pioneers, which is a Boston-based performance apparel company. It's the first Black-owned running-owned company in the United States, I believe, which is pretty cool. So if you've never heard of them, it's basically removing all the vowels. I'm gonna fuck this up on on audio.
I'll link it all down below. I'll check your bio and find all that for you.
Yeah, but pioneers, and so yeah, I mean, obviously, I worked with Grillo's Pickles, which was amazing, which is a
Yes.
Boston-based pickle company. The crunch on those fucking pickles, man, like I'm telling you, like that was
So good.
amazing. And then I like have connections to Gary Vaynerchuk if anybody's in the serial entrepreneurial or marketing space, but like he has this like collection of characters called V Friends, which is like this animated series. And so like I got to work with them and they sent me a bunch of t-shirts like Headstrong Hedgehog, which was super cool. And like they have all these attributes that like relate to like, you know, positive messages. And so I'm very, very thankful for everybody that I got to work with. I didn't make money, right? Like the goal of me trying to like work and partner with people is they would contribute to some aspect that I wasn't good at. So whether it's performance apparel or running sneakers or, you know, monetary support, you know, to support, you know, funding hotels for myself and my camera crew, right? Like
Right.
nobody talked, like it took days. We had to buy a hotel in the Berkshires, right? Where nobody lives. So it's expensive, man. And then you know this from all the people you've talked to, nutrition in this space is not cheap.
No, no.
And so, yeah, I mean, I was easily $2,000, $2,500 in the hole after like leading up to the race. So I was like,
Yeah.
I need some help.
I think that's important, and you briefly touched on it too, is that, you know, you get a super expensive goo. It's not just for the race because you need to practice and train with that goo. Like those go quick. They really do. And it's not just the, you know, 100 so miles. It's the last of those miles.
I mean, I counted it up. I was well over 800 miles of training. I mean, like, yeah, stupid amount. And so, yeah, I've consumed a lot of fucking goose, dude.
Yeah, I bet.
And so, yeah, my Amazon is always like, do you want to reorder this? And I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm done with like, I'm done. I need a break.
Yeah. Till next Christmas. But so what is next for you? I also saw that you're on a mission to see every country in Europe by the time you're 40. That's pretty exciting too with what's going on with
Yeah,
that.
I passed country number 40 this year in 2024.
Oh, you
I
did?
visited Romania and Bulgaria, which was pretty cool. I do a solo trip every year for myself, usually to a new country. Again, it's that being comfortable in uncomfortable situations, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I want to see all of Europe. I'm obviously from Europe. I love Europe. But everyone goes to like Italy, Germany, France, blah, blah, blah. They're amazing. Don't get me
Right.
wrong. But like,
Right.
there's so many beautiful places that are these like very niche, you know, eclectic countries. I still have a lot of the littler ones to get to it because they're so hard to get to, like, you know, Moldova or like, you know, Hertz in Bosnia and like all these other crazy places that like I don't know how the hell I'm gonna get to.
Right.
And they're expensive to get there. But yeah, man, next 2025, I'll definitely do something endurance related. Simply because I like if you look at my split times each day, I got faster.
Yeah.
And like I don't think it's supposed to go that way. And so if I still had that much energy at the end of it, like how much further could I have went? Like if I wasn't paying out of pocket for like the camera crew, like I would have been like, let's try to go back. You know, like it's like I probably could have done that. And so I think there's something worth pursuing at a deeper level in the endurance space for me. I don't know what that looks like. Like I don't look like your typical runner. Like I'm 6 feet tall, but I'm like average as fuck. Like I don't know. Like
Same.
I'm not scrawny. Like I'm not, you know, the Rich Roll podcast uses the word granola. Like
I was gonna say aggressively average, but yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. There's something there. And I don't know. I think there's definitely something to be said about if you're, and I'm going to use the word creativity loosely, if you're creative in your business, in your career, and then you pursue a very hard physical feat, whether that's cross training, high rocks is really popular.
Yes.
You know, obstacle races, whatever, or endurance running, and you just try those things to push your body, you actually end up becoming so much better fundamentally better at your career because you learn not only how to prioritize things better because you're training for something,
Right.
but like mentally it frees up so much space and gives you so much life that like there's a huge connection, especially these days going into next year. Like there's so many business owners, athletes who are cross-pollinating into different things. Like there's a there and like an unlock. And like I think there's something to be said about like just trying to really figure out how far you could push your body.
Yeah, I love it. And then starting to come to a close, you mentioned a few of your sponsors. Any other sponsors or other people that you'd like to thank?
I mean, dude, I couldn't have done the race without my girlfriend for sure. I mean, it's like anybody can go watch like the Moab 240 YouTube video and they see these flocks of like 8 or 10 people like building these campsites and shit like that, which is amazing and beautiful. Like I had one person who was there every time I needed shoes, socks, Neosporin my balls, like whatever it was. Like it's like you got one person and like it's just doing something like that. 150-mile race by yourself. I don't know how easy that is, if it's even possible. I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but like having somebody there to rehydrate, just say nice things, like be there is like all you could ever ask for. And then Owen Zubek and Sam Wagner, who are the two guys from the film crew, who are putting together the documentary. Hopefully people stay tuned, and we'll definitely do a premiere here in Massachusetts for it when they're done editing it. And I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. And then where can people follow you on social media, and where can people go to continue to donate?
Great question. David Filar. My name, if you just Google it, it'll come up on all socials. It's David.Filar on Instagram. It's David Filar on Twitter, or X. It's David Filar on LinkedIn. I mean, choose your poison. I'm on it. I'm not on Snapchat. I don't know if your audience is on Snapchat. I don't think so, but and then the donation page is still the link in my bio on everything. On TikTok, you can find me because I post a daily running video. If you're into that type of shit. Check that out. But I think it's called like Just Giving /page/ David-Filar off the top of my head, but it's something like that. But you can
and I will link it below too. Perfect. Well, David, very impressed and very much looked forward to talking to you. I'm not done following you. I'm very interested to see what you do. And yeah, thanks for taking the time, man.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate this so much.
Welcome back.
Thank you, David. I totally meant it when I said keep in touch. I hope to go to a viewing party of the documentary and meet you in person. Also, I want to kind of connect him with Cole Crosby and Michael Wardy and,
Yeah, they both ran across our favorite states.
Yes. Actually, we'll get to that in a, right here, related episodes. Episode 211 was the New Jersey point-to-point FKT with Cole Crosby. That's when he ran from northern New Jersey to the tip of southern New Jersey, Cape May, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You've been there.
Geography. Episode 236 was Ode to Laz Backyard Ultra, the Battle of Davis and Chase. I believe this is our second best or first best downloaded episode. And that's when I covered the Backyard Ultra, where Matt B. Davis, head of Obstacle Racing Media, went against Josh Chase.
People love the drama.
Yeah, and I usually not into playing with the drama, but it worked for that one. Episode 277, Michael Wardian is running across America. Episode 161 and 162 was OCR America 2 Uncut Audio, and that's when I traveled across the U.S. with Evan Preparis, and he did, and we helped a marathon of obstacle course racing across many states. So days 1 through 7 are episode 161, and day 8 was 162, because I went full-on media overtired that day.
Subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcasts. We are Obstacle Running Adventures, and if you do subscribe and follow to us, please go vote for us at the OCR Buddy nominations
thing. You can also support us over on Patreon for as little as $2, as many as $5. Get lots of behind-the-scenes perks, especially upcoming soon. I gotta start writing that.
I made a great Patreon video for November.
November's great, yeah. Absolutely.
Especially if you're a Swiftie.
But now it's December, so we gotta do another one.
Or you're a fan of World's Toughest Mudder.
Yeah, and you also get a behind-the-scenes look at the unedited video, too. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, and you get to see the banter of Mike and I.
Yeah. Coming up next, hopefully having an athlete on from Spartan World Championships in Abu Dhabi. But it is a little difficult without translators, so if you are fluent in French or Czech and can also understand me, I could use your help. We've got some badasses out there that deserve a spotlight, but just happen to speak a different language. What other OCR podcasters got translators? They go all out. Caitlin, you got a joke or a quote
I
to end
do.
this?
My quote is from Morgan Harper Nichols. Hope is not wishful thinking. Hope is the audacity to believe that after everything you've been through, there's more ahead of you. It's the courage to trust that as long as you're still breathing, you have not missed out on what was meant for you. And let's see if this joke is as funny as the intro to our podcast.
Not a chance. I'm moving that all to the post-credit anyway.
Did you hear about Rudolph's roller coaster ride?
No.
He held on for dear life. Rudolph, he's a reindeer.
Dear life.
Dear life?
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't like that one.
Not really.
And then why does Santa have so many gardens?
Why?
So he can ho ho ho.
Nice. All right, well, that just wraps it up. My name is Michael Stefano.
And my name's Caitlin Ritter.
We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe to our show and write us a review on your favorite podcast app.
You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook and connect with us there.
Most importantly, we would appreciate it if you shared an episode with a friend so we can reach more ears.
Then continue to effectively shine a light on the people in our sport, as well as the events that we are so passionate about.
Our intro song is Streaker by Straight Up, and our outro music is Iron Call by The Best.
Caitlin, let's give a shout out to our sponsors.
I don't even know. It's so funny.
I don't either. Are you that overtired? It's only 10.
So tired.
I'm the one that has to be up till like midnight editing this.
I already did my sleepy time routine though.
Sponsors.
Shout out to Mudgear. Use code Mudgear. Use code ADVENTURE for 15% off your next good.
Keep laughing. I'm going to make you edit it. Who's laughing then? I think I'm going to have to take this alone.
No, we can't end this streak. Mudgear. Use code ADVENTURE. I need a minute.
Yep. Mudgear? Oh, fuck. I don't really even know it.
Okay, I'm back.
And let's give it all that time and I had to pull up the patrons. Jesus. Oh, what a night. This is going to be the longest post-credit.
Should we just start over?
No. I can't believe You gotta be careful with that autofill. Jesus
I don't know if I
Christ.
can come back from that.
I gotta clear my fucking toothpaste, man. Oh, God. Here I am. This guy's was just featured in NBC, and I was going on this show where... Okay. Shout out to the 5...
Don't autofill the wrong thing, Mike.
I know.
Oh, God. Jason Dupree, why are you laughing at me?
Not.
Jason...
Oh shit, does he get to the handle?
Yeah. Who is that?
I don't know. I hope it's a cat. This would be our last recording ever if that's not a cat.
Thanks for reaching out, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I wish I found you before this whole escapade. I could have helped with like the fundraising and everything, but something tells me this won't be the last crazy thing you do, so.
It's not going to be for sure.
No, not far. I'm actually putting on an expo that's closer to you. It's in West Boylston. So I'm always doing stuff. It's in April 5th, I think. It's like a big OCR expo, and we have not a High Rocks, but a Deca Strong. Have you heard of Deca? Okay, it's like a baby High Rocks, I guess. And that
I don't need to be like involved in any other crazy ideas.
No, I know. Just saying that.
Also, Mike, if we name our second-born son Apollo, what was his middle name might be Steven.
Ass. You're very squeaky today when you're laughing.
Or ASR.
That's like ASMR.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.